Morning. Today's Daf Shabbos is Daf Ayin Vav, and we are up to the bottom of the page. And we're talking about how many chalas are required for a mincha. Is it 10 chalas or is it 12 chalas? Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion they all come with 10 chalas, and the only exception is the lechem hapanim, the showbread, which is 12 chalas. And the chavise kohen gadol, what the kohen gadol brings in the morning and afternoon, is 12 chalas. Rameir is of the view that they were all worth 12 chalas. The only exception was the chalas of the Torah. They come in 4 batches of 10, and a nazir as well, who brings 2 different kinds of matzahs. They come in batches of 10. That's the only exception. Says the Gemara on the bottom of the page. 2 dots, about 6 lines from the bottom of the page. Ayin vav amar aleph. Chutz melach metoida nezidus shein boys eser. They come in lots of 10. Lach metoida. So you want to ask the question. Lach metoida. You want to explaining. Lach metoida behedek sibu. It says clearly in the Torah that you have to what do you call it? Do the lots of 10. It says clearly in the Torah. But Nazirus, how do you know by Nazirus that's on lots of 10? Maybe if everything else is lots of 12, a Nazir also should be bringing his 2 kinds of matzahs in lots of 12. Because the Amamar, it says in the pasuk, it says on the top of the chalas lechem chavetz, you should bring the carbon. It says a zevach toida shlomim, and we ask why is it mentioned shlomim again, and we say l'rabbi shami nazir, to include the shlomim of a nazir is like a toida. In other words, sets of 10 chalas. Says the Gemara, says Shmuel, the name of Shmuel, lach mei toida she'ofan arba chalas. You're supposed to do 40, right? 4 batches of Yisara, 4 batches, and each batch you break up into 10. If you only made four chalas, those each kind was only 1. You have 1 chametz of 3 different kinds of matzahs. You made each one just 1 big one. Yatsa ya yatsa. Says the Gemara, don't need 40. Ask Gemara limits. It's only ideal. But boy, you have to give 1 challah from each set to the kohen. How do you do it if you only have 1 challah in the first place? What's the big deal? You take the big challah and you cut a tenth of it off and give it to the kohen. Can't be. The Torah clearly said that you have to give 1 to the kohen. He says he can remember echad mikol taban. You got to give 1 part to the kohen. Echad means a whole one, not a part of 1. So the yitol price, we learn from there you don't take a part. So my answer is yes, you do. Talking about that for shida belisha, while you were kneading it, not after it's fully baked, you take a part off. While we're kneading it, take off a part. Okay, so we in the bottom of the page, I just began. Shmuel said that even though by a Torah you need 40 chalos, 10 matzahs, and then from matzah you make it into 10, and the 3 different kinds of the chametz you make it 10, and then the 3 kinds of matzahs you also make 10 of each. But if you did only 1 of each, but a very big one, you use the full measure, but you made 1 very big one of each kind, that's good enough. And we asked the question, so how do you give a whole challah truma 10? You have to give 1/10. So he said you take a 10th off while you were kneading it. Makes us a question of Shmuel on the very bottom of the page. Ayin vav amar aleph. Kol menachos sheniba b'midas chalos, and any carbon mincha that you increased. So let's say instead of you're supposed to make 10 chalos and you made bigger chalos, now you only have 7. You only have 7. Oh, you made smaller chalos. Instead of 10, you have 13, 14. Shade is a kosher. Chutz melechem hapanim, except is the lechem hapanim, you need exactly 12, and chavise kohen gadol, you need exactly 12. The lachmei toida, and the lachmei toida as well needs to be exactly 10. When the zid is exactly 10, so it says clearly you said if you did 1 is good enough, so it's clearly you need 10. So you're right. That's what that Tana holds. Abba Huda Amar Shmuel holds the following Tana. Tana we learned Kol Menachos Shriba. He says any mincha that added midas chalos into the size of the chalas, and you had more than you're supposed to or less than you're supposed to, it's still kosher. Chutz lecha panim, there you need exactly 12. Okay, so we agree. Lecha panim has to be exactly 12. And chavisa kohen gadol exactly 12. The yesh aimim, and there's another opinion that also lachmei toida need to be exactly the amounts that they have to be, which is 10, which means that the first opinion said that those 2 don't need exact amounts. Shmuel holds like the first opinion. And he says, minchas mafa, the mincha that we bake in the oven, we said before, you have either chalas or a kikin. It has to be 10. You made it into 1, yatsa yatsa. My time, and what's his reading? Because it says in the pasuk, matzos ksiv. This says matzos without above, so you can read it. It says by minchas mafa. It says you should make chalos matzos. There's no vav there, as if you can read matzas in singular. Maskula Papa time, Raksiv Matzaska says that above. Hoksiv Matzah, had a taka been written with above, Loy has to be exactly the amount 10. Well, Gabi Lachmet Toida, Raksiv Matzah, Lachmet Toida, it says Matzahs, and yet we just said, Ramar of Tumakisna, Amar Shmuel, Lachmet Toida, Shafan Arba Chalos Yotza, that Lachmet Toida, instead of making 10 of each kind, you made only one big one of each kind, you're Yaitza. And here it seems clearly according to Rabhuni not. Obviously, Ahipli, Rabhuna argues with Shmuel. Next Mishnah. Ha'omer, that the omer, the carbon omer, which was made up of 3 saw, and we said before you have to sift it a number of times until you had 1 yisar. You ended up with 1 yisar. A saran is a 10th of 3 saw, and you end up, but we sifted a number of times to get fine flour. So ha'omer ha'ibah yisaran, you brought 1 yisaran out of shalosh sayin. You start out with 3 sayin, and you did a number of times till you got down to 1 yisaran, which is a 10th. 10. That's how fine it was. 10th of 3 saw. 3 saw is it's 3 saw, which is we call ephah. The Torah is called ephah. We'll see in the next period. And the 10th of that is 1 yisaran. They're the total amount ended up being 2 Esrainim. You have two chalas. Mishal Esrainim. You also started with Shal Esrainim, but you got a larger quantity. We'll soon see why you needed. You got less out of the omer from the starting off from the same amount than you got by the Shtei Lechem. Then you have Lechem Hapanim. The Lechem Hapanim on Shabbos, you have 12 loaves. Esrim ve'arba Esrainim. So there you have 20. Each challah is 2 Esrainim. So the end product is 12 times 2 is 24. And they started out Esrim ve'arba Esrainim. All you had is, so every saw produced one yisar, which is 3 1/3 of a saw. In other words, it's even less sieving. Now, of course, curse is why. The Gemara goes through it. My time, but first let's start with the omer. Why you have to go starting out from 3 saw, and why you have to? That's a big quantity. It's basically all you're getting is 10% out of the original quantity of barley. So he explains, even the Mechadash, see, this is a brand new crop. So still like not 100% settled yet, and it's moist and everything. And it's barley. Two deficiencies there. It's brand new, fresh, so you don't get as much flour out of it. Plus, it is barley, which is inferior compared to wheat. So, okay, so mufchila you won't have really fine flour. In order to get really 1 yisar of fine flour, you have to start out with 3 sayin. There, you don't have both deficiencies. You only have one. Which also is brand new. Remember, for the Mizbech, this is the brand new crop of wheat. You need to get 2 esrainis, also mishal esrainis. So you're getting a bigger quantity, extracting a bigger quantity of fine flour, but still, it's still a pretty small amount. 2, it's a 5th of what you started with. Even the mechitanasi, because it comes from superior quality of wheat, you don't have to sift it that many times. I forgot the Menachos Daf. It does have the other deficiency that's still fresh. Remember, this is the first crop you use for the Mizbech. Nevertheless, and the problem is when it's fresh, it still has a lot of chaff on it and takes a while to have to remove all that. Day Esrainis also Mishloy Sayin. So therefore, you can extract 2 Esrainis from 3 Sayin. Lechem Hapanim. When it comes to Lechem Hapanim, which we said before, you need 24 Esrainim. Esrainim, Esrim Babo Esrainim, 24. Each challah is 2 Esrainim. Is Esrim Babo son. You actually extract that from 24 sons. So you get one yisar out of every saw, which is 3 1/3. Right? So my timer because even the mechita comes from wheat. Umi yashanis also comes from old. It's not anymore new. So some of the chaff fell off already. Easy saw and muvchar asim saw. You can get really fine flour even from one saw. Talking we learn kol menachos any mincha sheriba b'midas. Instead of a saran, you ended up with a saran and a bit, and you use that for mincha. It's a problem because when you do your kaimitz, you might have more than you're supposed to. Other shemiyah b'midas saran, there the measurement is exact. When it comes to the in other words, either you had a bit more that you piled up more than a saran, or you had less than a saran. Either one is no good. Is psulus. Abariba b'midas soin. If instead of starting with 3 soin, you started with 4 soin. Or shemid midas soin. Instead of 3, you had 2. Because that's only midrabanan. We say that if you want to get fine flour, you 3. There's no rule that has to be that way. That's just telling you practically how it works. Mishnah the omer hayimenuf b'shleish essay. Now for the omer, we sifted it 13 times. Halacha Moshe why 13 times? They did 12 times. V'lechem apanim, you have 11 times. This is all exeris hakosov. That's how many times I had to sift it to get the fine flour that they wanted. Rav Shimon says, Loi hoyo lehen kitza. Rav Shimon says there's no measure and there's no real din that you have to go sift it. Elo soilis menufa kol tzarcha hoyo maybe. You can chatchila buy fine flour. Shenemar it says, Volakachta soilis v'fisa oisa. You take soilis and you bake it. Actually, menufa kol tzarcha lakachta means literally take it, but lakachta can also buy it. No, you don't even have to do anything. You can buy, if you can get in the market, fine flour, it's good enough. It's good enough. All we want is that when you bake it, it should be fine flour. That's all that matters. That's what we learned. But daka, the sifts, the sieves were daka, very fine holes, gasa, big holes to trap the chaff, and the husks, and bedaka, and back to the gasa. Went back and forth, they alternated. Machlekes is showing you whether you had 13 different kalim, which are 13 times, or you had two. It's just gasa means you have big holes, so the big chunks fall back, and the very thin holes is that there's also there's dark powder. That dark powder should fall through, and so we have bad flour that needs the little tiny holes to fall through. We don't want to lose the good flour, and then you have the bigger holes to trap all the things which are foreign to flour. Now, the long one, you had 13 different ones, or you had just two, and you kept on alternating. So that's what we learned. That's the order of Shimon. He said there were 13 nafay, zula, maila, mezula, zula, maila, mezula. Sounds like he was 13, and each one had bigger holes, or smaller holes, and smaller holes.
I think they were stacked on top of each other when you did it.
No, he's saying, he's saying it's 13, the holes, the size of the holes. Yeah. El Yoina Koleta Subin. So the biggest holes were there to trap the bran and the bad parts, and the Tachtaina, the one with the finer holes, were there to collect the soils to catch the good flour and let the bad flour escape, and vice versa. Rav Shimon says, "Lo yakitza, there's no rule." That's what I learned. Soilis, it says the pasuk, soilis, the afisa shebekid malamich and the kacha, so you can buy. So lekach the soilis, afisa oisam, lekach the soilis, buy the flour on the marketplace if you have really good quality flour. And how you know that this din does not only apply to the oimer, how you know it applies also to those menachas that you require with wheat. There we go. I don't care what mincha you're doing here. You can buy the flour wherever you want. All we want to make sure is when you bake it, it should be fine flour. All menachas, if so, all menachas as well. That want that you just buy also. Oisa. Not every mincha you need to have such fine flour. And why is that? We have rachmanis. Compassion. What's compassion of doing anything? It's very expensive to buy such fine flour, such high grade flour. The Torah is concerned about Jewish money, that it shouldn't be expended when it's not necessary, and therefore you don't necessarily need fine flour by all of these things. Only the Torah demands it. So therefore, that only this particular din in the mincha, and that's it. The rest you don't have to go such fine flour. Where do you find such a concept? For example, lechem aponim, you don't have to have such fine flour. We said before, lechem aponim, you have one son. And why? Where do you find the concept that trader says, don't spend money if it's not necessary? The Chibit says, the shkisa esa eida v'sebe'iram. It says by the mon, I want you to feed, that the mon is going to take care not only of the people, but also of their animals. So therefore, we see from here that what? Sorry, I'm talking about not the mon, the water from the rock. So we see that the Torah had rachmanos on their possessions, not on them, but also on their possessions. So that's how we know the Torah chosam makes. Don't spend money you don't have to. How does that explain all the expenses we have on Pesach? So that's like a real chumrah. Even the Torah says you don't have to be machmir. The Rivosh, I think it was the Rivosh, he once said to his talmidim, people are very makpid not to eat gebroks, not to have matzah touching liquid. He said, find me a makkah somewhere that once the matzah is baked. And he had 60 talmidim, and each talmid knew another masechta, word for word, everything. They all came back and they said, can't find a mucker. So he said, wow, this is the most beautiful minute. There's absolutely no basis, and yet the Eden are so machmer, some Eden are so machmer in your brooks. This is us, our input in Torah. Hadin aloch menachos nikmatis. Next parak, hatoida hoisa bo. Now, this thing is we have measures. We had measures in the midbar. In the midbar, we have the saw, and we have a thing called the ephah. That's how the Torah uses the expression ephah. And the three saw in an ephah an isaron, which means a tenth. It's a tenth of an ephah, a tenth of three saw. That means each. Again, a tenth of each other means that 3 1/3 Yisroinus in each saw. But then when they came to the Shalayim, they increased it by a sixth. We'll see the Gemara later. It actually increased it by a fifth. When the Gemara says number fraction, it's always milgav from the outside. A fifth comes. So it's a fifth of let's say of 100 becomes 120, and they'll call that a sixth because the sixth of the combined number. So that's called saw Yerushalmis versus saw Midbarius. Said the Mishnah. The Torah used to be made of 5 saw Yerushalmis, shehein sheish midbarius. We said before that you need 2 saw, right? 1 saw will be for the chametz, and 1 saw will be for the 3 matzahs. So the chametz used a lot more flour than the 3 matzahs combined is equal to the chametz. And we call it, and there's 3 saw for chametz, 3 saw for the matzahs, which is an ephah. But when they moved to the midbar, it was the size of a fifth larger, so it was less. HaTorah is about chomesh saw Yerushalmis. So if you use Yerushalmi's measures, it was only 5 saw because it was a fifth larger. So you only need 5 of the Yerushalmi measure called saw. Even though it has the same name, it's a different measure. Sheish bodies. Ephahs, you have 2 ephahs. Each ephah is equal 3 saw. So esrim yisar, the total was 20 yisar for the Torah. 10 was dedicated for the chametz, and another 10 of Yisaron, the other ephah, was dedicated to the 3 types of matzahs. Asara lechametz, 10 was for the chametz, and Vasara lematzah, and 10 for the total of the 3 matzahs. Asara lechametz, if you take 10 for the chametz, and there were 10 chalos, works out that each challah was the equivalent of 1 Yisaron, right? Because the 10 Yisroinus is the 10 loaves of matzah. We said before that lechem Torah the Achmed Torah is an exception. According to everybody, it was only 10. But the Torah says so. And Isar lechala, the Asara lematzah. Now you have 10 for the matzah, but there's a total of 30 different matzah, or 3 different kind of matzahs, but a total of 30. Uve matzah sholosh min, you have 3 min. The 3 min together, so that means each min was made up of 1 saw. And each saw had 10 matzahs. That means each matzah, so each saw had 10 matzahs. So you had 3 1/3 Israelim to make up 10 matzahs. There's 3 kinds. Chalas, there's Rikikin and Revucha, 3 different kinds of matzah that they made. Nimcha comes out that Shloisha Esreinim is Shloisha Chol Min Min. If 10 Esreinim made up 3 kinds of matzahs, which means each kind of matzah was a third of that. 3 1/3. V'sholish chalas li'isaron, and therefore 3 1/3, and then you had 10 chalas. So each 3 chalas made up 1 isaron. Every isaron broke into 3 chalas. So you have then 3 shreinas is 9 chalas, and you had a third, which is the 10th. Interesting how the Mishnah spells it all out, which is pretty apparent. But in immediate Yishalmis, if you use the Yishalmis measures, so when they did this in the base of English, there they didn't use the measure of saw. They used the measure of kav. That's 6 kavin per saw. Now you had a total of 5 saw. Remember we said that the saw, even though it had the same name, is a larger measure. You had 6 kavin. So if you have each saw is made up of 6 kavin. If it was only 5 saw, it's 30 kavin. Total of 30 kavin. So therefore, immediately Shalmi saw shloishim kav. There was 30 kavim in total. Remember, half went for the chametz and half went for matzah. So chamisha also the chametz. Let's calculate it now in the base of English. 15 went for chametz, and the chamisha also the matzah. And 15 went for matzah. If chamisha also chametz, look at the chametz. There were 10 chalas there. So each one was 1.5 kavim, pretty big. Kav machzah lechala. Then you have a total of chamisha also the matzah. You had 30 matzahs. And there was a total of 15 kavim. That means each 2 matzahs made of 1 kav. That means each matzah was a half a kav. Uve matzah sholosh mean 3 kinds. Chalosh kigin levucha. Nimtzu chameshes kavim mean each species of matzah was made up of 5 kavim because the total is 15, 5. Umean v'shtei chalosh a kav. That means 2 matzahs made up 1 kav. Very interesting. The Mishnah should spell it out because once you tell us what it is, we can work our way around it. But they knew that we'd always get confused. Says the Gemara, the Torah came five for the Yerushalmis. This is what we call today, they have a word for it now, is inflation. Instead of going up in price, what the potato chips company do is they make the bag smaller and smaller, and you're still paying the same amount or whatever it is, let's say $1, but you're getting less for it. Here, they did the exact same thing, and everyone's upset. Here, the exact same thing. What they should have done is give new names. Instead, they use the exact same names, and it's confusing, as the Gemara will say.
They could have filled petrol every time. Just put in $20. Price hasn't gone up.
Okay, exactly.
$20.
Well, they will get you home. That's about it. How do you know this? How do we know this? So you Shammos know that. First of all, how do we know that an ephah is 3 sign? We made an assumption an ephah is 3 sign, and the Sarah is a tenth of that, which is what is a Sarah is a tenth of 3 sign. How do we know that? I know 3 sign. We have a pasuk by Yechezkel where he says over there, he gives measures. It says in the pasuk, ephah the ephah, habas, which is another kind of a measure. They both have exactly the same measure. Now, once we know that ma bas shalosh sign, since the bas we know is 3 sign, so af ephah is shalosh sign, so we know that ephah also is 3 sign. Because Yechezkel said that ephah and bas are the same. So you want a bas gufin? Who told you bas is 3 sign? How do you know? Elema, you can tell me it says in pasuk. Law says because then it says it's to carry. You said a tenth of a chaymer, and a chaymer is 30. Let's say we know that a chaymer is 30 saw, and this carries a tenth of that, which means 3 saw. That's how you know a bas is 3 saw. Well, in the very same pasuk it says an ephah. It says ephah and bas. So why do you have to compare ephah to bas? Just tell us that ephah is a tenth of a chaymer, and therefore we know ephah is 3 saw. Ma'aser chaymer habas. Ephah nami hoksiv. It says vasil is a chaymer ephah. It says in the pasuk, and the tenth of a chaymer is an ephah. In the very pasuk, it's supposed to have more explicitly. Vasil is a chaymer. Tenth of a chaymer is ephah. So what do you have to compare it to bas for? The truth of the matter is, chaymer l'dani kama. We also know what a chaymer is. These are all words that we have no idea what it is. What's a chaymer? How do we know chaymer is 30 saw? How do you know bas is 3 saw? How do you know ephah is 3 saw? We don't know. So it goes back to the original question. How do we know that ephah is 3 saw? From the following, it says, Hashem, the rule of Shemen, Habas, Hashem, and the measure of oil is Bas. And then it says, Ma'aser Habas min HaKoir. And Bas is 10%. You give Ma'aser from a Koir. And a Koir, we know, is 30 saw. I said, as Habatim Chaymer, it says 10, and 10 Batim make up a Chaymer. So we know that koir is 30, and now you tell me that chaymer is koir, and you tell me that 10 botim make up a chaymer. That means each bas is 3 saw, and the other pasuk says the ephah v'habas toichen echad, that the ephah and the bas are the same measure. That is how we know that an ephah is 3 saw. So we're comparing it to bas. Yeah, said as habotim chaymer, 10 botim make up a chaymer. You start with the word koir, and then you swap it over to the word chaymer. So we know that chaymer and koir are the same. Koir we know is 30 saw. That's what koir is.
Ma'aser bas means
that bas is a ma'aser, a 10% of a chaymer, which is a koir. So it's 3. And the first pasuk says, "Ha'ephah v'habas toichen echad," that the measure of ephah and the measure of bas is exactly the same. So once we know that bas is 3 saw, then we know that ephah is 3 saw. If you want to add to the measures, don't add yaisim mishtus. Never add more than a sixth. Now remember, we had the idea of cheating you're not allowed to cheat. But he says now we're talking about measures, not talking about overcharging. We're talking about measures. A pound or a kilo. If you wanted to say a kilo is going to be now, instead of being 1,000 grams, it's going to be more or less. Shouldn't be more than a sixth. 1,100. Shouldn't be more than a sixth. The loy alamat beya yaisim mishtus, and a coin as well. Don't increase more than a sixth by the weight or the value more than a sixth. And so too, when you make business, don't add more than a sixth. As Rashi says, when it comes to staple food, staple items that you need. Anyone in my time, why can't you add more than a sixth? What are you worried about? Let's say if you want to change the measures and make it a quarter bigger, what's wrong? Says the Gemara, Elema is the problem. We're worried that if you start increasing the measure of more than 6, you're going to inflate the price, and then the price will be more than the normal standard that you increase. Once you increase big quantities, the price goes even. Once inflation gets out of the genes out of the box, you don't know out of the bottle, you know where it's going to go. Yeah, you don't know where it's going to go. And is that the problem? That's how Rashi learns here. Rashi in the Ksaveh at the bottom was a little bit differently. Rashi at the bottom says that what happens, a merchant doesn't know that you increase the value, and he is going to charge as if it's a small value, because he remembered that that's a kilo. And then when he had to physically give it to him the bags, it was much more. If it's more than a sixth, it turns out to be the wholesale never happened. You're wasting everybody's time because the din is more than a sixth that you unravel the wholesale. If it's a sixth, you just give the money back. But if it's more than a sixth, the wholesale unravels. So it's to protect these merchants who come from other places. They don't know that the inner shenanigans of every city. So never do more than a sixth. Work on the worst, you didn't make any money. If so, then shtus namilai. Then even a sixth you should know as well, because a sixth you also have to give the money back. Ella meshumay no cheating. We're worried not because of inflation. We're worried that there won't be any deal, won't be any sale. The whole sale falls apart. Says the Gemara. Rava said, "Kol davar should be anything to do with that we sell by the measure. Doesn't matter how much you increase it by. If I expect to be this much and more or less, we had a few days ago as well. The whole thing unravels. So what you shouldn't increase it at all. Shouldn't play with it at all. It doesn't matter how much you increase or decrease by. If we're worried about foreigners that don't know and made a mistake. Elamashum tagra. The reason is that for people who are selling that, for example, if you bought the crop in another city, and then you go into this city and try to sell in the marketplace, and you try to make a profit, you can try to make a profit of a sixth. And if you are going to change, if the measure is only up to six, worst comes to worst, he didn't really lose any money, and he just didn't make a profit. But if it's more than a sixth, he actually has to give the whole thing back, and because he lost all his profit. He thought he'll make a sixth profit because that's what you're allowed to do, and it turned out to be that you had to give away more than a fifth, let's say, and he lost money on the deal. So what it says, we don't want him to have a loss. Says the Gemara, so what he's saying, we don't care if he doesn't make any money. We just don't want to make a loss. Let me ask a question. Famous saying, Zavan v'zabin. I buy something for $1 and I turn around and sell for $1. Tagri ika, you call that a seicher. Okay. Why he's the only reason why he's doing it is to make money. So if we're worried about his profits and everything else, then why are you only worried about more than a sixth? With the fall apart, worried about a sixth as well. He has to make something. As Rockefeller said, you never lose any money if you made a little. No, but he's saying that you never feel bad if you sold something in the share market, and then if you look at it a week later, you could have made more money. So never feel bad if you made money. So what's the difference? Could have made more. So here also, if he makes nothing, what kind of stuff? Zovin v'zabin tagre yikre. That's a seicher. Ela mechizer. Shmuel Kra'ash K'v'darish. He learned from a pasuk. This whole thing is not a logical thing. It's a pasuk. You cannot play around with the weights and the volumes. Why? It says in the pasuk, Hashekel is esim geda. The shekel is 20 geda. Then it says esim shkolim. It says here 20 shkolim. Chamisha ve'esim shkolim. 25 shkolim. Asora ve'chamisha shekel. And then it says 15 shekel. So you have here, what is it? You have 20 and 25 and 15. Hamana yilechem. And the money is to you. Money is most of Arben Haver. It comes out from here, you have 240. Now, a money we know is 100. And they changed the thing over here, became 240. How did it become 240? So Shema in class, you learn three things, and they increased obviously the value, and we learn three things from here. Number one is Shema in class. By us, a money is 100. Hegdish, their money is 200. Lechatchila, their money is 200. So therefore, that's where you're 200. How do you get to 40? And then Shmam and Masif and Alamidus, you can add, right? Because it should have been 200, became 240. The maximum is a 6. Actually, it's a fifth, which we'll see the next Shmam. A fifth of 200 is 40. That fifth, that 6 that we say a 6 is milbar. No, it's really a fifth. A fifth of 200, because that's what the value of Hegdish is 200. So a fifth of that is 40, and you add it on, it becomes 240. Ravina could finish the Gemara. My sister now prove the mission. It says the Taida was 5 Soyin Shalmis, which is 6 midbodies, exactly a fifth. Shmamina, it's a fifth larger. So when we say 6, we mean a fifth larger. A fifth of 5 makes it 6. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow.